Hi guys, I hope you're doing absolutely amazing so far. In this video, we'll talk about animation, transitions, and animation curves. So for this video, we'll just understand animation. There we have two types of animation, that is implicit animation and explicit animation. It is a very crucial topic when it comes to applying animations to the changes that happen to your view. So let's get started. So I've mentioned here animation. We have two types of animation, implicit and explicit. And transitions are built-in transition, custom transition, and we'll also see animation curves. So this two we will actually see in the upcoming video. I will just target animations for this video. So when it comes to implicit animation, let's get started with this one. So here we have the straightforward two things as we have been following in previous videos. So I have created a structure, animation and transition, and I'm just calling our examples here. And this structure is called into the preview. I'll refresh the preview. And let's take a look at our first example and understand implicit animation. So this implicit animation example here, what we have is a state property, which is named is scaled. It is initially false. And based on that, we are going to do some changes in our view. So in the view, we have a vertical stack where we have only two things, a text and a button. A text is tap to animate. We have a simple text here, which you can see here, and a button with the title animate, and a padding to the button. And we have some modifiers to our text. So we are making the font, title size. We are scaling the text based on the value of the property or the add state property here. So if it is true, it will become larger. It will be 1.5. But if it is false, it will be smaller with the scale size of 1. And we have opacity based on the variable. If it is true, it will be opacity is 0.5. Otherwise, it is going to be appearing fully, no transparency. So value is 1. So what we use to for implicit animation is dot animation. So we'll understand this. Let's understand what our button is doing. So button is basically toggling our is scaled state property. Toggle basically means if the value is false, it will make it true. If it is true, it will make it false. So when you click on the button, initially it is false, which basically means it's gonna toggle it to true. Now, what add state property does is when this value changes, it will change our view also. So let's keep this one thing in our perspective so that we can understand the further things very clearly. So when we have a first look, which is looking like this. So right now, the whole view, it's nothing, it's just our text. This is just a button, but this is the text which is appearing based on this value. So we have two effects here. So is scaled, if it is false, it is 1.0 and opacity is 1.0. So this is our first look, how it is appearing. The tab to animate is appearing. This is our first look. Now, when we will change the value to true, due to the change in the state property, there are going to be changes in the view. And the first change is this. The scale effect will become 1.5 because now the value is true. And the second change due to our state property is opacity. It will become 0.5. So what we are doing, I'm just clearly stating what is happening because it's going to be very crucial to understand. Understand the further things. The change in the state property gives you a different look. So there is a first look where our title is scale 1.0 and opacity is 1.0. Then the state property changed to true, due to which there were change in the views, and the changes were the scale become 1.5 and 0.5 opacity. So that becomes our second look. So we are calling the first look and the second look, and the changes in between that happened in the first look gave us the output second look. And now that we have this in our imagination, things are going to be very simple to understand. So these changes, what are these changes? This is the change one, or let's call it first change, and this is the second change. These are the total number of changes in our view, and these changes are associated is because of this state property. So I will mention here the state property has changes one for first and second. So what I'm saying is there was a first look with 1.0 and 1.0 scale in opacity. That is our first look. This is how it looks like. What happened is the state property changed. So state property changed to true. Because of that, because of the change in the state property, some changes occurred in the view. So change first and the change second occurred, and we are associating this first and second change with our state property. And finally that change happened and we got the second look. Very easy, very simple, straightforward. And what we are doing is this change is happening, this 1 and 2 are the changes happening. If we do not use any animation right now, these changes will happen suddenly, right? So is this scale toggle will change the value, and changes related to the state property will happen suddenly. So I will click animate, it will change the state, and all the changes related to the state property will happen, and it will give you the second look. So let's run it. And if you notice, it happened suddenly. It got scaled up from 1.0 to 1.5, and the opacity from 1.0 became 0.5. You can see it's slightly transparent. And this is very straightforward. And if you want it to animate, I will just use dot animation, give it an effect. The changes that happened, I want them to happen with animation, and I'm just giving it effect, what kind of animation it would be. We can give a lot of or a lot of, like easy now there are a lot of options. I'm just saying in 0.5 duration this effect is with which the animation should happen for all the changes due to this particular state property, and I'm mentioning the state property here. Now let's run it. Now if you will see, the scaling up happened with animation, and the opacity decreased from 1 to 0 also happened with animation. So I've mentioned here in the notes, implicit animations are applied using dot animation on a state change. SwiftUI automatically animate the change. Okay. And all the changes that happened due to this state property, it will animate that. Very straightforward, nothing to understand. This is how implicit animation works. Now let's move to our second example where we have two state properties. Becoming interesting, right? And it's going to become more interesting. So we have now two state properties, and this is named as implicit animation with two state variable. So we have two state variable is expanded and color. We have our view where we have a circle, and this circle has many modifiers and a button inside which when we click it will toggle our properties. So this is the boolean, so it will toggle it, and to change the value of this property we will just say the color is equals to the condition. Initially we kept it true, so the first look will appear blue, and if it is blue, when you click the button it will become red. Yeah, so we have two state properties, and the circle first look will appear something like, I will comment this one and load this one. So the first look will look like this, and there are going to be changes in the two state properties, and due to this two state properties there are associated changes in the view that will happen, and then we will get the output second view, second look. So let's understand the changes. So is expanded is used here and here. So this is our first change. The frame width and height will become from 100 to 200. So for false it will be 100, which is currently it is, and it will become 200 after the value change. So we can say this is a change A, and change A basically, I will say, associate changes here. I will mention A. And the changes associated with color is right here. We have a foreground color here. So I have named it change B. So I will mention the changes in the view because of the property color is B, and there are no other changes. So how do I animate the changes due to first property and the changes due to second property? I need to animate all the changes due to the first property and all the changes due to the second property. I will use dot animation, give it effect, and the value I will mention the name of the state, the property, and it will animate any change due to is expanded. And so same will happen for color as well, correct? So let's see this in action, and we'll see what's the problem here. So I will click animate, and you will see it's happening all fine. When I click it again, it will go to its original state, or I will actually rerun it to avoid confusion. So we are running it once again, and notice when I click, it will animate the color change, that is the color change, and the is expanded, it's going to expand the frame. So the expansion is also happening slowly with animation, and the color is also happening with animation. Yeah, this is our ideal thinking, right? This is how it's happening. We are using animation to animate all the changes due to this state property and animate all the changes due to this state property. And problem here is, there is a problem here. If I want to animate changes only due to is expanded, then what do? I want to avoid the changes to happen with animation, the changes which are associated with color. So B is the change, which is this one. The color, the change that happening, the color change, I don't want it to happen with animation. I only want the frame change A, which is due to is expanded state property. Only this state property related changes I want them and only them to happen with animation. So for that, the straightforward ideal naive approach that comes to the mind is I will just comment this one and it should work, right? So let's try it out. So what we are expecting right now is only the animation due to is expanded state property. When it will change, it will be changed as soon as I will click. Both of them will be changed, but the is expanded related changes, which is A, which is this frame, that will happen with animation, and this should not happen with animation. So let's run it, and you will see both of the things are happening with animation. I will run it once again. Just notice the frame has expanded with animation. We can clearly notice that slowly it was expanding, but the color also got with animation. There was no sudden change in the color. So I will refresh, start it again, and the color is also still animating, and that is a problem. So when it comes to dot animation or say implicit animation, as soon as you use animation, animation will be applied to all the changes of all the state property. So when you click on the button, all the properties which are getting changed, all the state properties which are getting changed, all the changes in the view related to those state properties, all of them will get animated implicitly. The SwiftUI will animate automatically. And as soon as you just use one animation here, it will just work for all the state properties. And all the changes due to all the state properties will be getting animated automatically. Although we are commenting the line, we don't want any animation for color, but it's still doing it. And that is a problem. So what to do in this case? I have first explained the problem, kept a note for the problem. The problem is the animation implicitly animate to all the state variables, all changes. So we have all changes of one state variable is expanded, which is this one. It can be more modifiers utilizing is expanded. So we can change it. We can name it, change A1 and change A2 like that. And the changes related to color, we can name it, change V, change V1, change V2 like that. But right now, all the changes associated with one state property due to color state property, all of the changes are getting animated automatically. So I've mentioned here both the size and color changes animated automatically, and dot animation listens for state changes and applies animation implicitly. And animation implicitly animate to all state variables all changes. That is a problem. And what we want is we want to animate only specific state variables all changes. We want to animate only this specific state variable all changes. So when this change, whenever it is used, here it is used, this is that change due to is expanded. We want only this one to get animated. Now commenting animation don't work since dot animation implicitly applies automatically to all changes of all the state variables. So the solution is with animation. With animation, we use for the second, that is the explicit animation. So what we are doing here is we're explicitly telling that I want the animation to work only for this specific state variable associated changes, only for those changes. So let's get back to our solution. So here I have written the code for solution. This is the explicit animation we will use with animation. And is expanded color, the code is absolutely same as above. Here we have the two state variables of ours. We have view and v stack, same circle, same button. The circle has frame and foreground color. We were using two animations here. We don't have it anymore. We are not using it. We just have our due to the change due to is expanded versus change A due to is expanded. I will and change B due to color. So this change is associated with this state and this change is associated with this state variable property. Now in the button when we click, we are toggling both of them. But I want animation to happen only for the is expanded state properties associated changes. So change A is associated with add state is expanded property. Since that is the property which is in the block of with animation, only that state property associated changes will get animated and not the other state property associated changes will get animated. They will not get animated. This one will not get animated. Yeah. And let's try running this and I will with animation. So what we are expecting here is we are still toggling, we are changing the color, but this will happen, the change will happen instantly. Suddenly there will be a change. It will not get animated, but we are um, keeping our state variable inside the with animation. So this change will get animated. So I will copy this and I will comment this one and put this one. So let's bring this here. Let's go to our example. Actually, here it is. And we have our look one, that is the frame is 100, and when the change will happen, it will become 200. It will the width and height will become 200. Foreground color will change. So we have the look one, which is looking like this. Then there is a change in the state properties, both of them, but the animation will apply to the changes due to the first state property is expanded, and not to the changes associated with the color state property. And that's it. And then we will get the look 2. So let's run it. So what we are expecting is as soon as I click, it will toggle both the state property, but the animation will happen only for the changes which are associated with is expanded state property. So which is the frame. The frame will expand with animation, but color will appear suddenly. So I'll click, and you will have noticed the color just came up suddenly, and the expansion happened with animation. I will refresh and just notice once again the color came up suddenly. And that is what the difference is. With animation is an explicit animation. Basically, we are telling explicitly that with animation, whichever state property is in this block, only that state property associated changes should happen with animation. We are explicitly telling it. We are toggling this one as well. And this is not inside the with animation, but if we put this one as well inside the animation, I will remove it. Then the changes which are associated with color state property, they will also get change. They will also get changed. The change will happen with animation. So let's run this now, and you will see color is also animated. I will refresh and run it once again. The expansion and color both are animated. And here, when it is inside the block, this change is animated. But I will comment this and copy this, bring it outside the with animation, and here I will say is going to be instant. So if it's here, it's going to be instant or not animated. That is the difference. Now there's a big thing that you have to keep in mind, that is, do not mix implicit animation and explicit animation. Do not mix them. You will get unexpected outputs, and that is a problem. So that is all. I have written some notes here. Whenever you have some doubts, you feel lost, you don't understand, you want to revise things, just come to the file and go through the examples and the notes here, and you will be back on track. So I have mentioned here only the size change, that is expanded toggle, is animated. So only change is expanded toggle is animated. Color change happens instantly because it is not inside with animation. Here dot animation applies to all changes, while with animation control specific state changes. So we are specifically controlling the changes associated with this state property, and we are animating only those changes. And I've written here a difference. With animation applies animation only when a state change occurs inside the block. All I mean here, when there is a change happening, the toggling you are doing, the state property which is changing, which is inside the with animation, then the animation will happen to all the changes associated with is expanded. And dot animation applies implicit animations, meaning any state change affecting that view will change. So implicitly means Here we just wrote animation, and it just tracks for any state change. It will just look for this animation we have applied on the circle, which all state properties we are utilizing on the circle. The circle is the view, and what all state properties are making the change in the state in the circle view or the first look of the circle. And it will just, if there is any state change in here, it will just apply a default animation on it, and it picks up ease in out generally. And if I will do not apply animation on it, even just I just remove this for one line also, then there is going to be no animation. But if the moment you use dot animation, it will animate the changes in the circle automatically. And you cannot just target like I want the changes which is happening in the circle or the view, where the view is a circle, so changes associated with is expanded, only those changes should get animated. That is not the choice here. It will just animate the changes due to the color as well. So it will, this one will animated, will get animated, but this one also will get animated implicitly. And that is a big difference between implicit and explicit animation. I have mentioned here some notes, and that is it. Let's keep the video till here only, and let's do one more thing. Let's see, I have created a V stack here, and the implicit animation and the explicit animation I've created here to see the difference right away. So the implicit animation here, we're using dot animation, and explicit we're using with animation. So here it is going to apply all the changes will be getting animated. That is changes, that is a frame change due to the first state variable, and foreground change due to second state variable. All of the changes of all the state properties which are making change in the view will get animated. So when you click animated, the color and the expansion is happening. But when it comes to this one, I'm not sure if you're able to see, make it slightly bigger and actually smaller. And now this is with animation. So we are targeting specific state associated changes to get animated, which is targeting is expanded. We're keeping it inside the block. So the changes associated with is expanded. Only those changes will get animated. So which is this one. And this one is not. This is going to be instant. So when you click, the color change will happen instantly, but the expansion will happen slowly with animation. And when you click on the button multiple times, it's going to toggle and change the color. So from look 1 to look 2, we saw from look 2 to look 1 also can happen. Now the value of its expansion is true after toggling. If we click it again, it will toggle back it to true. And the color after the first look to second look, the color went from blue to red, and then it will go back from red to blue. So let's click it again, and you will see the animation is applied only to the frame and not the color. So if you will click it multiple times, you will see the color change is happening suddenly, instantly, because the color is outside the width frame. And here if you click it multiple times, the animation of the color and frame both will happen with animation, and that is a problem. And that is it. That is implicit and explicit animation. I hope you find this video informative, and I will see you in the next one.